all-wheel drive club AWDC Safari Championship makes its way to Ilfracombe for the 6th round of what's turning into a fascinating championship campaign. We've got a two-way tie at the top of the points between Mark Swales and Rod Parker, and only 3 rounds left for them to settle it and decide who becomes champion in 2019. There are also several fascinating class championship battles still to be decided as we move into the pointy end of the season. So Hones and Parker tied on points, with Chris Cummings still looking for his first victory of the year, but leading in Class 5. Harry and Jason Nicholl ahead Class 7, whilst Philippa and James Tennant are enjoying a near-perfect run in the Freelander Trophy.
And that's right, we're here on the south coast at Ilfracombe. We've got a huge entry list, as you can see behind me, which includes over a handful of UTVs, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on this weekend. But let's focus our attention on the championship fight, which includes Rod Parker and Mark Owens, currently tied on points with 491 points. This is the business end of the season, and this could tip the championship in either way.
Yeah, totally. This is the one which Mark and myself both are going to be pushing for. And whoever comes out on top will have that edge going into the last 2 races, where you can then sit back and have a bit of comfort and let the other person chase you. So yeah, we're both going to be going out, as we always do, and going flat out.
I mean, earlier this season, you did take the first few stages with an air of caution. What's your mindset going into the first ones here?
We have now a bit more time behind the wheel, a bit more experience with the car. Understand its pitfalls and understand where it's got some advantage over the other cars. So our mindset going into this first lap is to let it have it.
Now let's not forget, last round out, Rod Parker, pushing the car to its limits, actually tore off one of his rear wings. And it was 12 months ago at this exact venue where you tore this one off. So this wing that's on the car now actually got torn off the car 12 months ago.
Not fiberglass later and gaffer tape, and we've got it sorted. Yeah, the one we locked off at Bickley at the last round, that wasn't savable. That was in 6-7 pieces, so no, not savable. But this we managed to get it back.
Yeah. But if you're going out hell for leather first off, there is potential you could damage the car early on.
That's the risk we take every time. But at the end of the day, we need to go out with that mindset from the first lap, because Mark is on it from the very start, and we've got to be on it.
Well, good luck. Hopefully we'll see you at the end.
Thank you, Anthony. All my best.
Well, there's drama here at Ilfracombe even before the event gets underway. Joint Championship leader Mark Hones has been excluded before the car's even turned a wheel. A technical infringement means he's not allowed to compete this weekend, and it leaves the door wide open for Rod Parker to take a healthy points lead into the final 2 rounds. Mark will be able to use this as a drop score, but it puts the pressure on for the final 2 rounds as he tries to regain lost ground. In the early stages, though, it's the buggies that seem to have the edge. Paul Rowland's your early leader, over a minute clear after the first 2 runs. He's part of a competitive Class 5 battle this weekend, but in the points, Chris Cummings enjoys over 50 points of a cushion over the rest of his class rivals.
So the Class 5 battle in round 6 is one to keep an eye on. Chris Cummings currently leading Class 5. You got your hands full this weekend, haven't you?
Yes, yeah. I think there's 8 in our class this weekend. Some very, very quick drivers. Yes, we shall see.
Paul Rowlands is here, he's very quick. Guy Smith, we don't really see racing in the UK anymore, but he's in a turbocharged Maverick with 200 brake horsepower, slightly more power than this, slightly heavier. There's a lot of technical stuff through the forest and the woods, but then you're onto the fast fields, the jumps. How do you keep the belt warm in this kind of environment? Cold, sorry.
Cold. Well, we've got plenty of heated ducts on the roof. We've been playing with the clutch weights a little bit to try and get them better. It's the biggest limiting factor we've got, really.
Who's going to win?
I don't know. Rod Parker will take some beating, I would have thought. Not sure what's happening with Mark Holmes, but yeah, but you can never discount the Rowlands. And I don't know about Guy Smith. We shall see.
We certainly will. Well, good luck. Hopefully we'll see you at the end and potentially a podium.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So with that, Andy, who's going to take this one?
Well, Chris Cummings is in 2nd place in the early stages, but in danger of falling into the clutches of the rapid Mike Bakewell, who's only a second slower than him on run 2, despite this being a course that should overwhelmingly favour the Polaris. Mike has had a consistent season so far, but with only 1 class victory to his name, he'll be keen to try and add to that tally this weekend. Despite the lack of winners' silverware this year, he's rarely been off the podium, which is why he enjoys more than 70 points over the rest of his Class 9 rivals coming into this weekend. He's in third place in the early stages overall, but only 1 second clear of Guy Smith, making his first appearance of the season in the championship and immediately on the pace.
One man who's no stranger to the off-road scene and no stranger to racing at all is Guy Smith. You're out in the UTV class this weekend, Class 5, for a shakedown with your turbocharged Maverick Can-Am. What are you thinking going into this round?
We'll just do as best. Hopefully we'll get a top 5 finish. That's where we're hoping. But we've got 1 or 2 new things on the car that we want to test in England before we take it to France. This car's only done 350 mile up to this weekend, and we've got a few customers that are having issues with little things, and we thought we'd better try and get a solid understanding under a controlled environment. So we've got a few extra sensors on this car, what we're testing and trying to get data that we can prove why things happen rather than them just happening and wondering why has that done it. Can-Am have been very good to us. They've given us a little bit of help, and we like the product. I mean, the difference between this and one of our own cars, it takes us a year to build a proto car. We can ship a Can-Am in, and in 4 weeks it's going through the door.
You got Paul Rowlands here this weekend, who's very quick as well. Chris Cummins is currently leading the Class 5 Championship. They're the ones you're going to be looking out for, but on the straights, I reckon this will be quicker.
Yeah, I think the first part of this course is probably better for Polaris, and then I think, like you said, towards the end it's probably better for Can-Am. So I think it's all down to timing seat as well. Paul's a good driver. He's got a lot of experience in SSVs, and they do side-by-side stuff, so there's quite a few jumps in here that we'll be very nervous on because we don't really do that type of stuff. Whereas Paul should be in his element, and he's just starting to do well now. He's had a lot of bad luck at the beginning of the season, but they're getting their act together now. He was flying at the last round of the British, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's where the battle's going to come from. So it's great to see you back, and good luck for this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
So what of Rod Parker then? Well, with Mark Hones, his big championship rival, guaranteed not to score any points this weekend, you could forgive Rod for taking things a little easier. Caution, though, is not a word that enters his vocabulary, and he's been pushing as hard as he can in the early stages, despite the fact this is not a course that suits this car one little bit. Through the tight and technical forest sections, he has been struggling. The damage on the rear of the car is a legacy of contact with a tree, just to illustrate that point. On the wide open sections, though, he is able to push, and he's doing his best to try and claw back some time. With Hones out of it, he wants to maximise this opportunity and take as many points from Ilfracombe as he possibly can, but that may mean that he has to take a few risks along the way. Only time will tell whether this attacking driving style is the right way to go. He's 5th place at the moment though, and no doubt needs to push as hard as he can to claw back the time to take big points from this round. Over 1.5 minutes off the lead, he's only 30 seconds behind 2nd place though, so a podium is on the cards. Rob Scone is a driver who arrives at Ilfracombe with no championship challenge to concern himself with, and that apparent lack of pressure seems to be paying dividends. He's running 6th place overall after the first 2 runs and well in the fight for a podium place. However, his main concern this weekend will be Class 9, where he's got the very rapid Mike Bakewell to go up against. Mike may be somewhere ahead in the early stages, but if Rob can get himself a podium this weekend, he'd probably consider that a job well done in what has been only a part-time campaign in 2019. Whilst Rod Parker may have lost his main Class 8 rival in the shape of Mark Hones, Alex Holford is still likely to be a real thorn in his side, as an impressive start to what is his first event of the season goes to show. Alex sits in 7th place after the first 2 runs and 2nd in Class 8, only 30 seconds behind the championship leader, who he seems able to keep pace with, particularly through the tighter parts of the course. Alex is one of several drivers making their first appearance of the season this weekend in what is one of the biggest entries we've had all season long. That increase in numbers, though, means there's a higher level of competition across most of the classes, so those valuable championship points are harder to come by for those who really need them. One team that definitely could do with the points is Team Parry. They are the third squad in that Class 8 Championship battle, trying to chase after Mark Holmes and Rob Parker. They may not have had the overall pace so far this season, but a sequence of podium results means that they're only 11 points behind Holmes, who in turn is one ahead of Parker. Therefore, Rod and the Parrys could both really benefit from Holmes' lack of points this weekend. This event also sees Stephanie step into the driving seat for only the second time, so a consistent run is the priority. They've already said that their main aim this weekend is to get to the finish in one piece. However, a second place is up for grabs. They're only 1 second behind Alex Holford after the first 2 runs, and that may tempt them to go for the extra bonus points to try and buy back into the championship battle. Their day hasn't been without drama though. The 2-litre Vauxhall engine refused to fire up at the start of one run. Thankfully they've got the problem sorted and it doesn't seem to have returned for the time being. Hopefully they'll continue like this and maybe bring themselves back into title contention. Whilst it's very close for that second place in Class 8, both of those teams have a decent advantage over Bruce Mallett, who sits in 9th place overall and 3rd in Class 9 after the first 2 runs of the day. Mallett arrives here at Ilfracombe 4th in the Class 9 points and only 9 behind Andy Skelly, so a top 3 in the championship race could still be on the cards if he has a decent final 3 rounds. Be sure to join us after the break to find out what happens as we head into the middle portion of this 6th round of the championship.
So one man who's had a rather interesting year with the World Drive Club is Bruce Mallett in his Peugeot 3M. It's got a 4-litre V8 from a Lexus in the back of it, huge amounts of power. We're here at Ilfracombe. What are you thinking going into this round?
Trees and slippery lanes. Last year was my development year, and last year I broke the steering and things, but there's been a lot of development since then, so I'm hoping it'll be a good event for me, and I think I've ironed out pretty much everything, although I shouldn't have said that, but it does feel like I've got everything together now, and so I'm going to give it a good crack.
Yeah, you're in a tough class. You're in Class 9 with a lot of high-powered vehicles and very quick drivers. With your car, everything's pretty much standard, isn't it?
Standard engine, standard auto gearbox with a ratchet shifter. Yeah, everything's standard. The view was do that, get everything else right, which has taken me a year, and then I've got a supercharger in the garage ready to go on, and that'll bump me up to 350-ish, and that'll put me up with the other guys, so that's the plan.
Well, as we head into the middle part of the day, let's take a look at what's happening in some of the classes a bit further down the order. In Class 4, it's a comfortable lead for Tim Pink. After the first 4 runs of the day, he's nearly 4 minutes clear of anybody else in class. If he can hang on to this result to the flag, it would be a brilliant result for a driver who has only actually finished 1 round so far this year. However, he still sits 3rd in the Class 4 Championship, having scored 75 points at each of the first 2 rounds, despite not turning a wheel. That's because he acted as an official or a marshal at those first 2 rounds of the season, and those championship points are now starting to come in handy. It's a great initiative and one that all of the drivers are encouraged to do, as it helps to keep the events well marshalled and plenty of officials there to help run them. He'll be hoping for another good class result this time around to keep himself in contention potentially for 2nd place in the championship race. It's a championship that's being led comfortably by Paul Hansen, but Di had a disappointing round last time out at Tiverton. He caught up with Anthony ahead of the event to talk us.
One person who didn't have it all his own way at Tiverton was Paul Hansen. Di, you've had a bit of an interesting time getting here, haven't you? Talk us through it.
Yes, decided to change engines, which probably wasn't the best decision halfway through the season, but we've done it. A little bit more power than before, so hopefully we should be on the pace this weekend.
A little bit more power. You've got nearly twice the power. You got to
play it down.
You've got 400 newton meters of torque, pounds-feet of torque coming from a TD5 Land Rover engine, 2.5 TD5, over 200 brake horsepower. It's got to be quick for a little thing. But firstly, what number engine is that's been in this car?
4, 5. She's had a few. She's done.
And have you took it for a proper test drive yet?
No. Up and down the industrial estate Wednesday night at about 11 o'clock. That was about it.
So this is going to be one of the toughest shakedowns the car's ever had.
Hope the axles all together. That's only my worry. My worry.
Oh yeah, because of the amount of torque and power going through them.
More power now, yes. The internals, apart from the rear diff, all the internals, the axles are standard, so it's whether they're going to take it.
Thankfully for Paul Hansen, his nearest Class 4 Championship rival Tony Rooney also had his own trials and tribulations last time at Tiverton. The pair of them left the 5th round of the championship with just 50 points apiece, meaning it's still a healthy championship advantage for Paul Hansen, whilst Rooney is even more comfortable in 2nd place in the points. Therefore, his aim for the remaining rounds of the season is to notch up as many more podium finishes as he possibly can without having to worry too much about championship points. So far so good then, he's running in 3rd place at the moment, several minutes behind Paul Hansen, but even further clear of the rest of the Class 4 competitors. With a clean run through the rest of the day, a 3rd podium of the year should be on its way to him. Back towards the sharp end now, and one of the biggest improvers through the middle part of the day, Stuart Williams. After the first 2 runs, he was languishing outside of the top 10. However, now the Class 5 Championship contender has worked his way into 7th place, 4th place in Class 5, as we hit the middle part of the event. Whilst it is turning into a slightly more promising day for him, he still will be a little disappointed. He arrived here 2nd place in the Class 5 Championship, but over 50 points behind Championship leader Chris Cumming. With Chris looking likely to challenge for a class podium this weekend, Stuart needs to try and find a bit more speed if he can to be able to go up there and challenge for more championship points. Nonetheless, he's been enjoying himself, and the upturn in pace is a good sign that he might yet be able to bring himself into contention as the day goes on. For now, though, the spectators are thoroughly enjoying his full attacking driving style. The Ilfracombe course offering lots of long-distance views with the cars in view, sometimes for several minutes, making it a firm favourite on the championship calendar. It's fair to say it's been an up and down season so far for Andy Dare. He's had good pace, a 4th place finish in class at Ebbw Vale earlier this year is testament to that, but sometimes things just don't seem to go his way. He's on top 5 form so far this weekend though, however, even this event has not been without its difficulties. He very nearly didn't race at all, as he'd left his race kit at home. Thankfully, his wife Lynn was able to deliver it to him, and he has been able to get out there on the course. He's also celebrating the marriage of his youngest daughter Jade, and he'd no doubt love to get onto the podium this weekend to complete the celebrations in style. He's a little way off the podium at the moment, but this is a course that should suit the Polaris, so we'll keep an eye on him as the day goes on. Dealing with traffic is not something you necessarily associate with a safari-type event, but for Rob Scone and Class 6 leader Darryl Hardy, things did get a little close for comfort at one of the high-speed parts of the course. Thankfully, Darryl survived that moment and is still leading Class 6 by just over a minute. Could today be the day that he finally gets his first class victory of the year? He's been 3rd on 3 separate occasions and must be well and truly ready to get to the top step of the podium here today. Keeping Darryl Hardy on his toes this weekend is Richard Haywood, who, along with his co-driver Kelly Thomas, are making their first ever safari competition appearance this weekend and are immediately showing front-running pace. Their tyres have been getting closer to those of Darryl, although they did drop 30 seconds in run number 4. They're still running a solid 2nd place in Class 6 though, which is not bad at all, especially considering they bought the car without an engine. Thankfully they've been able to piece it all together and it's running reasonably well. Some slight gearbox issues and an unresolvable misfire have held them back. But all things considered, they're still having a really positive day. They're loving the championship and the camaraderie in the paddock, and I'm fairly confident we'll see them back again in the very near future, potentially even on the top step of the Class 6 podium before the end of the season. He's got experience of competing in Mark 1 Ford Escorts in classic reliability trials and car trials, and seems to be taken to safari competition like the proverbial duck to water. Another new name to keep an eye out for in the future. For Leighton Dodds and Martin Hayward, it's been a fantastic middle part of the year. 4 consecutive podium finishes, including a victory at round 2 at Ebbw Vale, means that they should be in championship contention within Class 6. They're nearly 100 points though behind Del Wheeler, who has not been out of the top 5 all season long. However, once the drop scores are applied, a non-finish at round 1 for Walters Arena for this pairing means that actually they're dropping far fewer points, and are in fact within a point or so of the Class Championship lead. That makes this a particularly significant battle, and they're ahead of Derek so far this weekend by quite a bit of time as well. Maybe the championship tide is starting now to switch in their favour as we move into the final third of the season. Well, earlier on in the day, Anthony was in the paddock and was able to catch up with their big championship rival Derek Wheeler to get his thoughts ahead of the event.
As we've seen all year, the battle in Class 6 has been rather fierce, but somebody who's got a healthy lead coming into the latter stages of the championship and the season is Del Wheeler. Del, we're here at Ilfracombe, beautiful sunshine, track's dry. What are your thoughts going into this one?
To be honest, I've never been here before, so for me I'm just going to take it nice and slow and basically see what the track's like and try and get faster throughout as the day goes on, basically. Try and increase the speed.
As we saw last round, you're on the air of caution. You took it rather steadily, but you got there in the end. You come away with the points and you're still in the lead of the championship.
Tortoise and the hare.
But obviously, let's not forget your co-driver, Kirsty Randall. Kirsty, you've been involved with off-road racing for many years. Your mother's won this championship in the 80s as well, so is your advice going far with him?
Oh, I don't know. It's mainly keeping it on all 4 wheels, that's the main thing at the minute. Learn the car and we'll see what happens.
So you've been round here before, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Used to race with Jason Nichols, so yeah, been round here a few times.
Quickly as well.
Quickly, but I don't know whether that's the best thing or not.
So your job today and this weekend is just to keep his head on a level playing field and get the car to the end?
Yeah, bring her home. That's the main goal.
You're going to listen to her?
I'm 100% relying on Kirsty.
Well, good luck to you both. Hopefully we'll see you at the end.
Thank you. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Next up in Class 6 is Paul Wilkins, making his first appearance of the season here in round 6 of the championship. He's still feeling his way in and getting used to the car and this unique form of competition. Whilst he's not quite on the overall Class 6 pace at the moment, he should be happy with the progress that he's making himself, knocking nearly a minute and a half off his times within just the first 4 runs alone. If he can keep this pace up, and if we see him back again before the end of the year, he should definitely start to show top 5 potential before the year is out. This is a very tricky course to make your debut at as well. This car in particular not well suited to this really tight and bumpy terrain through the forests. Just keeping all 4 corners on the car is a real challenge. Roger Baker has twice been on the Class 6 podium this year, but he will not be getting another one here today. A maximum time incurred on run 3 has taken him well out of contention on this occasion. He'll be doing his best to try and catch up, but he's over 12 minutes behind anyone else in class. He'll be relying on some retirements ahead of him to pick up some more championship points. We'll find out whether he's able to do that after this break. Be sure to join us to see what happens next here at Ilfracombe. and welcome back to Ilfracombe, the 6th round of the all-wheel drive club Britpark Ravenel Safari Championship. We're into the final third of the day now, and it's been a relatively clean day for most crews. A short list of retirements headed by car 197 Ian Archer. He was running within Class 7, but had had all sorts of problems throughout the day. A maximum time on both of the first 2 runs. He had a clean 3rd and 4th run, but was then out for the rest of the day with mechanical issues. Hopefully he'll be back next time, and with a car that's working properly, so we can see exactly what he and the car can do. Rod Parker, meanwhile, is really pushing on. He's just set the 2nd fastest time on run 3, but he's gone off. He's made a mistake in that forest section that he's been struggling with anyway. He's already almost guaranteed to leave here with a championship lead over Mark Holmes, but he wants that to be as big a margin as possible. He needs to cut out those sort of mistakes, though. That's just cost him a big chunk of time. He really just needs to get through here in one piece, and he will take a decent margin to the penultimate round. Hang on, that doesn't sound good though. The car suddenly sounds like it's in trouble and he's slowing. Rod Parker is pulling off to the side of the road. Would you believe it? It looks as though he might be out of the event altogether.
So with Mark retiring before the event even starts, it just left Rod Parker to nurse the car home. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. He blew the engine to pieces.
Yeah, well, we were lucky to get around the first lap, to be fair. We had 3 real near misses where it would have been a total write-off. Then we started really nicely. 4th lap in, towards the end, we lost all power of the engine, catastrophic failure, crank went snap.
Yeah, I mean, you've saw how quick the buggies are here this weekend, and you had to put your foot down, you had to go for it in the forest to get the win, and unfortunately that was the demise, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we lost a few parts in the forest like we always do. We do like arsing trees and touching them a little bit, but we got through all that fine. It was out in the open stuff where we can make up our time, and we had to really give it some, and it is what it is. That's motorsport.
Yeah. Well, it leaves you and Mark still joints on points, but Chris Cummings could jump you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to see how today goes, and we'll have to decide then what we do for the rest of the championship.
Well, for now, commiserations.
Thank you very much. It's going to be a long drive home.
Well, what drama in the championship battle then. Neither Rod Parker or Mark Holmes are going to come out of Ilfracombe with a finish, and that could allow some of the others to start closing in on them in the championship battle. Well, Paul Rowlands is not a part of that championship battle, but he does look as though he could be on for the victory now. It's not all been plain sailing though. A puncture on one of his runs, the 6th to be precise, threatened to send him back into the clutches of Rod Parker before Rod's untimely demise. Thankfully, with the tyre changed, Paul was back to his absolute best. The only driver now capable of getting below the 10-minute mark. He's continuing to extend his lead. 2.5 minutes clear now of anybody else, and he is odds-on favourite to take the victory here this weekend. You can see here why the Polaris is so well suited to this course. Brilliantly agile and nimble through some of the bumpy and tight sections, but really well balanced at high speed. No wonder they've been so hard to beat here in Ilfracombe. Well, now we ride on board with the man that could be set to really benefit from Parker and Holmes' non-finishes, Chris Cumming, who arrived here 3rd in the championship and is now running a solid 2nd place. He may be some way behind Paul Rowlands, but he has built up a cushion now over the rest behind. If he can come home in 2nd position, he will score 99 valuable championship points, which might just be enough to bring him back into contention for the title. Oh, that's a moment that he didn't need though. A spin on one of the high-speed sections across the top of one of the fields. Thankfully, there's nothing to hit up there, so it's a harmless half rotation, and he will be able to rejoin with no damage done to the car. Goes to show though that mistakes can happen at any time to anyone. For Chris, he must now finish. He has to try and finish, preferably on the podium, otherwise he can wave goodbye to any chance of fighting for the title. It will be a tense final few runs for Chris. Let's see whether or not he can keep it together to the flag. Well, the big moments keep on coming for our front runners. This was a very lucky escape for Guy Smith, who's running in 3rd place at the moment. Nearly ended up on his roof and in a ditch with that moment on a downhill section. Thankfully, he gathered it together and is still very much in the fight for 2nd position. It looks though as if he and Chris Cumming are both pushing their cars to the absolute limit in their pursuit of 2nd place. They both really want the position, but for different reasons. Cumming needs the points for his championship campaign, whereas for Guy Smith this really is a glorified test session, testing the tyres and testing the car for any customers that may choose to compete in it in the future. For a first appearance in the championship though, Guy Smith has certainly caught people's attention. He's in a fight now for a position inside the podium places and is less than a minute behind Chris Cumming. Might he be tempted to push that little bit harder and go for 2nd place? Well, we'll find out. 4 more runs to go and it could be done. One of the candidates for best improver of the day has to be Alex Freeman. This was his first event of the year and he readily admitted to being a little rusty when he arrived here, but his pace has improved dramatically as the day has gone on. He was well outside the top 10 in the early stages. By the end of run 6 has moved into 4th place overall and the lead of Class 7. The Class 7 Championship meanwhile is being led by Jason and Harry Nicol. They're in 2nd place, albeit some way behind the rapid Alex Freeman, and they caught up with Anthony earlier on.
So currently leading Class 7 is Harry and Jason Nichols. Now Class 7 is the class for over 4 litres, B Maxwells and also naturally aspirated. Harry, it's not you've been doing all the driving this year, but you've still taken part and you're currently leading Class 7. How are you feeling going into this round here at Ilfracombe?
Yeah, there's a few more entries for this weekend, so I think there's about 5 or 6 in the class this weekend. There's some good drivers and good cars, so it's going to be a bit harder to win the class this weekend. We kind of dominated it this year, but I'm sort of trying to learn this car off Dad, and so I can go a bit more next year.
It's got a 4.8 Rover V8 in the back of it, B Maxwells. It's got an auto box, but it's also a sequential flat shift box as well. Talk us through that.
Yeah, that's what I like about driving this car, because it's literally just completely flat shift, but it is, and it's only a 1,500 quid gearbox, basically, like £1,500 conversion on it. So yeah, it's completely flat shift. You are literally concentrating on the driving instead of clutch down gear. So you're literally just flat shift straight through the box. It's only 4-speed, but it's a good box to have, and yeah.
And is there a little battle between you and Jason to see who gets the quickest time?
Well, I'm quicker than him. Well, I think I'm quicker than him, but to be fair, he's doing all right this year. But I'll let him have this year. Well, I did all the last year in my car, so then I'll do the hill rallies and stuff. But yeah, next year I'm gonna fight him to drive all of them.
Fair enough. Well, for now you've got to go and get scrutineered, and good luck for the rest of this weekend. Hopefully We'll see you at the top.
Lovely, thank you.
Rounding out the podium runners at this stage in Class 7 is Victoria Vaughan, but it's very close. She's only 30 seconds clear of Mark Swales in a battle that looks set to run right to the end of the event. If she can hang on to this 3rd place, it would equal her season best effort from Walters Arena back at the start of the season. Since then, though, she's had a trying year, and if it hadn't have been for 75 bonus points gained for acting as an official or a marshal at the 3rd round at Glanusk, she would be well down the Class 7 Championship race. As it is, she arrives here a comfortable 2nd place and will be looking to finish this event in one piece so as to consolidate that position. The driver attempting to chase down Victoria for that podium position is Mark Swales, the last of the Class 7 runners still going. These two have been locked in combat from the word go, and the battle doesn't look to be easing up any as we move into the final few runs of the day. The pair of them have been trading times all day long. Of the 6 runs we've had so far, 3 have gone the way of Victoria, whilst Mark was quicker in the other 3. However, a misfire on the first run of the day has meant that Mark's been playing catch-up ever since. Both Mark and his co-driver Monty, though, have been enjoying their first all-wheel drive club event together, despite the misfire has shown good pace as the day's gone on. It's been nice to see some new entrants in Class 7 this weekend as well. Not always the best supported class in the championship, but the cars are competitive, and as we can see here on one of the high-speed sections of the course, they look an awful lot of fun to drive too. With the demise of our two pre-event class favourites in Class 8, it's been the turn of Team Parry to step up to the plate. They're looking good now to take their first win of the year. In fact, all they have to do is finish the event. Remarkably, despite the fact that Class 8 is usually one of the best subscribed classes in the championship, they are the only car still running in what has been a race of attrition for some of their fellow classmates. Understandably, therefore, the pace has been reduced slightly as we've gone into the afternoon. They know that all they have to do is get to the end in one piece, and 100 championship points will be theirs, more than enough to bring them into contention for the Class 8 title. Well, after a relatively low attrition rate in the early stages, more and more drivers are now starting to fall by the wayside as the Ilfracombe course takes its toll. We can add to the retirements list now Stuart Williams, who was running an impressive 5th position early on and well in the fight for another Class 5 podium. Sadly, he's out of the event now and will have to try and bounce back next time in order to consolidate his 2nd place in the Class 5 Championship. We can also add to the non-finishers list Bruce Mallett, who sadly, having run a very promising 2nd place in Class 9 earlier on today, will not make it to the end of this 6th round of the championship. He made it through into the early afternoon before pulling off into retirement, and sadly with it losing his opportunity to try and take a 3rd class podium finish of the year. Bruce will be back next time though. Hopefully he'll be the last of our retirements. Join us after the break for the run into the flag to see what result we get at the end of a fascinating day's competition.
On to Class 1 now, and currently leading Class 1 is Philippa and James Tennant in the Freelander. They're also leading the Freelander Trophy. However, if you take into consideration drop scores, it's Richard Mayer-Barron. Now, Richard, you've won every event that you've took part in, and here at Ilfracombe, I've just been around the course. It's very tight and technical. There's trees everywhere. There's hills. There's adverse camber. It's not going to be an easy one, is it?
It never is here. I mean, it's the good thing is we've got the weather with us. Because out in the open fields especially, it gets ever so slippery if it's slightly damp or the mist comes down. But the woods, I've walked the woods, and yeah, it's as everything is. But as I say every time, we're used to the vehicle, we know what it can do now, we're getting used to the power, but now we change over to the EFI. It is now a matter of bringing it home again, and I keep saying bringing it home, and I've got so many people chasing my tail. And this weekend, we've got the Black Rat back out again. And he can be spectacular on occasions. He's very quick, but we're just hoping that it self-destructs again like it did at Minehead last year. So he's really the competition this weekend to take points from me. Good for him. Well, they all are. They could all take points from me. I just got to be careful in those woods, get it onto the open, especially on the long 1 mile track up in that woods coming back. We just got to open it up, and that's where we've got to make our time back up for being slower in the technicals, like you say.
Yeah, and you've got work cut out for your service crew as well, because last round out you lost a lot of bolts out the hub and it nearly didn't make it.
Absolutely.
So every bolt has got to be checked over twice or 3 times.
Yeah, we've been through it again. We got it on the trailer. I got it on the trailer on Thursday evening. We've replaced all the exhaust manifolds, the exhaust system right back to the middle box, because the whole thing had split and that was causing a problem. It was overheating the slave cylinder and boiling the fluid, the brake fluid, the clutch fluid. I apologise. So we've changed the clutch master cylinder, the slave cylinder, we've changed the pipe work. Then we started work on the hub, and we couldn't take the bolts out. They were finished. So chuck the hub away, new hub, new bolts, all back on, new bearings in place.
It'll be a brand new car by the end of the season.
In bits, yeah. Bit by bit, we're slowly rebuilding it. But like Darryl Hardy, my good friend, said to me, who obviously services with us, he said to me, the car's getting quicker and quicker, and so am I. But what will happen now is there'll be other things that are starting to break on it, and he's absolutely right. And it is. I mean, the car is now. The car is quick now, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see it at the end. Hopefully it's going to hold together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good luck for this weekend.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll be speaking to you at the end.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, hopefully, and it comes back in the same shape it went out. That's the one.
I doubt that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, right. And once again, I'd like to thank all our sponsors, especially Ravenel and Britpart, and Par Homes, who are here in force this weekend. And thank you very much for them. They put these events together for us and make it happen. So thank them very much.
And a big thank you to all the marshals and the organisers.
Absolutely.
Because without them, these kind of events wouldn't go on. So thank you very much to everybody.
Yeah.
Toby Cox finds himself third place in Class 1 going into the final part of the day, despite this being his first appearance of the season. This is a difficult event to make your debut on, so he'll be happy to have got through it relatively unscathed so far, and will be hoping to continue that form to the flag. He's several minutes adrift of the top two, but keeping things clean, and they are ahead at the moment of one of our big championship rivals. Not a bad day's work here, and what has been a tough event all round, particularly for these more standard Class 1 cars. The Class 1 battles are always amongst some of the most fiercely contested in the All-Wheel Drive Club Championship, and this weekend at Ilfracombe is no different. Luke Dodds and Kieran Jones, though, are uncharacteristically off the pace and are not a factor for the overall class victory this weekend. In fact, it looks as though they may miss out on a podium spot for only the second time all season. They're down in 4th position, and whilst they are within 30 seconds of a podium place, they haven't really had the speed to contest all weekend long, and it looks as though they're set to lose a few more championship points to their big Class 1 championship rivals. Luke and Kieran arrived here at Ilfracombe just 5 points behind Philippa and James Tennant, but with the two Tennants fighting for a podium and these two down in 4th, that gap is set to increase. In fact, the Tennants are not only in podium contention, they could yet take the Class 1 victory. They're second position with 1 run to go and are only 13 seconds behind Richard Mayer-Barron, the Class 1 leader. If they can take that maximum points haul, that would possibly put one hand on the championship trophy. They know better than most, though, that in Class 1, survival is key. These more standard machines often do start to struggle later on in the day as the course gets churned up and rutted. They need to try and keep things clean and get to the end in one piece to maintain and indeed extend their championship margin. Things haven't gone faultlessly so far for their Freelander. They had a car immobilise itself once again earlier on in the day, and they had an issue with a loose bonnet pin. All things considered then, they'll be quite happy still to be in the running, let alone in contention for a class victory. The leaders, though, are going into their final run of the day, and for Paul Rowlands, it looks like it's going to be a comfortable victory. He's got several minutes in hand over anybody else. That first podium, and possibly first victory, looks to be his. It's now Guy Smith, though, who is Paul Rowlands' nearest rival. He has also got into the 9-minute bracket as the day has gone on and has moved ahead of Chris Cumming, who, significantly, has run into mechanical issues late in the day. This has been a brilliant debut for Guy, though, and a perfect advert for a car that clearly has great potential. Well, with Chris Cummings' dramatic late issues, that elevates Alex Freeman into a hugely impressive 3rd place overall on his return to competition. He's comfortably leading Class 7 and just needs to bring things home now with a clean final run, and he will be on the outright podium, a result that many people, Alex included, would never have predicted before the event began. all of this has come after various issues throughout the day as well. He had a rear shocker mounting that broke on the second run of the day, and from run 6 onwards has had no intercom, so hasn't been able to hear any of his selection of co-drivers that he's running with this weekend. If he can get to the end with no major dramas, it could be a real relief. Matthew Hall has also benefited from Chris Cummings' issues, and another one of Polaris's now fills out the 3rd place within Class 5, 4th place overall. Not bad for someone who hasn't actually finished an event since round 2 back at Ebbw Vale. He did have a slightly slow final couple of runs, but going into the final run of the day, he's still doing more than enough for what would be a very impressive first class podium of 2019, and he'll be keeping the pressure on in the hope that those in front of him run into some late troubles of their own. Despite a disappointing middle part of the season, once the drop scores are taken into account, Matthew is still in contention for a top 5 within the Class 5 points table. All the more reason to keep on pushing and try and build on this and carry the momentum through to the next round. Joanne Pullins is taking things relatively easy this time around, having torn a wheel off last time out. She's keen to get to the end in one piece and isn't taking any unnecessary risks. That means she's some way off the Class 5 pace. She's the last of the Class 5 cars still running. Team Parry look likely to maintain their position at the top of Class 8, mainly by virtue of the fact they're the last Class 8 car still running. This would be their first victory of the season in class, and they're running 5th place overall, which would be their best overall finish of the year so far too, a day to remember all round. They are one of many teams to have benefited from Chris Cummings' issues. Before he had those problems though, Anthony caught up with him when things were going so much better.
Halfway through the event here at Ilfracombe, and it's Paul Rowlands who currently leads after the demise of Rod Parker and Mark Holmes. However, it's Chris Cummings who is in the fight for the championship. Chris, with Rod Parker and Mark out, this could jump you to the top of the table in the championship.
Yes, we have realised, but we're just trying to keep our heads together to try and get a good finish today. On the last lap, the belt started slipping, so we might have to just back off a bit now and try and go home. Hopefully stay on the podium, but just back off a little bit.
Yeah, we saw you earlier pushing it a bit. There's a few spins involved, so you just got to keep it all together and get it to the finish. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Richard Hayward is now definitely the odds-on favourite to take the Class 6 victory. He's a couple of minutes clear now of Leighton Dodds and Martin Hayward on what has been a spectacular debut appearance in Safari competition. Hopefully we'll see Richard back in the very near future. If we do, there's no doubt that he'll be a podium and class victory contender once more. It'd be even better to see him back for a full season campaign next year. This is definitely someone who's shown an awful lot of potential this weekend. While there is still time for some late drama, and off on the final run for Alex Freeman hands Matthew Hall a remarkable podium finish, meaning the top 3 cars are all in Class 5. Well, here is that result then. It's Rowlands that takes the victory with Guy Smith second and Matthew Hall third. 3 new names on the podium here in the 6th round of the championship. Team Parry are 4th and they win in Class 8, whilst the Nichols take another Class 7 victory. Class 1 is taken by Richard Mayer Barron, with the Tenants in 2nd, extending their points lead. Well, here are those points then. Chris Cumming takes over the points lead from Mike Bakewell with the Nichols 3rd, but remember, this is before drop scores are applied. Parker drops down to 4th, Hones down to 7th, but they will still be in contention as we head to the penultimate round next time out back at Ebbw Vale.